Imagine this. Justin Herbert drops back, scans the field, and launches a missile down the sideline. Streaking past defenders, nobody within 5 yards of him, Tyreek Hill hauls in the pass and turns on the afterburners. Touchdown Chargers. The crowd goes wild.
This isn't fantasy football. This isn't Madden. This is what could happen if one of the most explosive trades in NFL history went down. The fastest player in football wearing powder blue, catching passes from one of the most gifted arms the league has ever seen.
When Miami shocked the NFL by acquiring Tyreek Hill from Kansas City, it proved that no player, no matter how valuable, is truly untradeable. So what would happen if lightning struck twice? What if the cheetah changed his spots again and landed in Los Angeles? The ripple effects would transform not just two franchises, but the entire landscape of the NFL. This isn't just a hypothetical trade. This is football chaos theory. First, let's ground ourselves in reality. Tyreek Hill isn't just another star receiver. He's a game-breaking force who completely warps defensive game plans. Since entering the league in 2016, Hill has been selected to the Pro Bowl every single season. He's topped 1,000 yards 6 times. He's scored 73 receiving touchdowns. And he's done all this while being the most feared deep threat in football. In Kansas City, he helped Patrick Mahomes become Patrick Mahomes. In Miami, he elevated Tua Tagovailoa from question mark to MVP candidate. His impact isn't just statistical, it's transformational. So what would it take for the Chargers to land him? Let's be clear, this would be expensive. When the Dolphins acquired Hill, they sent the Chiefs a first-round pick, a second-round pick, and 3 later picks. They then signed Hill to a massive contract extension, making him one of the highest-paid non-quarterbacks in the league. For the Chargers to pull off such a trade, they'd likely need to part with their next first-round pick, at least 1 second-rounder, and probably a young defensive star, someone like Asante Samuel Jr. The Chargers would also need to find room under the salary cap, which would mean restructuring contracts or making additional painful cuts. That's the cost. But what about the reward? Justin Herbert is already one of the most physically gifted quarterbacks in the NFL. His arm strength ranks among the league's elite. He can make throws from platforms and angles that defy coaching. But what he's lacked is a true field stretcher, someone who can take the top off a defense and open up everything underneath. Enter Tyreek Hill. Hill's top-end speed, he's been clocked at over 23 miles per hour in games, would immediately become Herbert's most dangerous weapon. But Hill is more than just a deep threat. He's evolved into one of the most complete receivers in football. His route running has become precise. His hands are reliable. His ability to create after the catch is elite. Pair Hill with the Chargers' existing offensive weapons, and suddenly, this offense becomes nearly impossible to defend. Ladd McConkey providing the size and contested catchability. Najee Harris creating mismatches out of the backfield. And now Tyreek Hill demanding safety help over the top on every single play. Defenses would be forced into impossible choices. Double team Hill and leave Williams in one-on-one coverage. Focus on stopping the pass and watch Harris gash you on the ground. Bring extra defenders into the box and risk getting burned deep. The offensive coordinator would have a field day designing plays that leverage Hill's unique skills. End-arounds, screens, option routes, all would become more dangerous with Hill's game-breaking speed. The red zone offense, occasionally a weakness for the Chargers, would suddenly have a new dimension. And Herbert's numbers, they would likely explode. We've seen what Hill does for quarterbacks. With Mahomes, he helped create the most dynamic offense in football. With Tua, he turned a quarterback known for accuracy, but not deep balls, into one of the league's most productive passers. Herbert already has the arm talent. Add Hill to the equation, and we could be looking at 5,000 yards and 40-plus touchdowns, the kind of season that wins MVPs and changes legacies. But the impact of this hypothetical trade would extend far beyond just the Chargers' offense. The entire AFC West would feel the tremors. The Chiefs, who have dominated the division for years, would now face their former game-breaker twice a season. The defensive schemes they used to contain Hill in practice would now be tested in games that count. Patrick Mahomes, who has thrived even after Hill's departure, would watch his former favorite target catching passes from a quarterback some consider his equal in raw talent. The Broncos and Raiders would have to adjust their defensive blueprints, knowing that the division now features yet another offense capable of putting up 40 points on any given Sunday. And then there's Miami. Trading away Hill would signal a major shift in strategy for the Dolphins. The draft capital they'd receive could accelerate a rebuild or be packaged to acquire help at other positions of need. But there's no replacing what Hill brings to an offense. Tua Tagovailoa, who has thrived with Hill as his primary target, would need to adapt his game once again. The trade would also reshape the broader AFC playoff picture. The conference is already loaded with contenders. The Chiefs, Ravens, Bills, Bengals, and others have all established themselves as threats. Adding a supercharged Chargers team to that mix would make the road to the Super Bowl even more treacherous. The Chargers have often been labeled as underachievers, a talented team that can't get over the hump when it matters most. Would Hill be the missing piece that finally pushes them into serious championship contention? History suggests that one player, even one as talented as Hill, rarely turns a franchise around by himself. But Hill isn't just any player, and the Chargers aren't lacking talent across the board. There are risks, of course. Hill turns 31 soon, and while he hasn't shown signs of slowing down, speed-dependent players often decline quickly when age finally catches up. The draft capital surrendered in such a trade would hamper the Chargers' ability to address other needs through the draft for years to come, and the salary cap implications would force difficult decisions about which homegrown stars to extend and which to let walk. But flags fly forever. If the addition of Hill brought the first Super Bowl championship in Chargers history to Los Angeles, no one would question the price paid to acquire him. So what happens if Tyreek Hill is traded to the Chargers? The answer is both simple and complex. The simple part, one of the NFL's most electrifying playmakers would join forces with one of its most gifted young quarterbacks, creating an offensive pairing that would immediately rank among the league's most dangerous. The complex part is everything else. The defensive adjustments teams would make, the financial implications for both franchises, the ripple effects throughout both conferences, and the pressure that would immediately fall on a Chargers team suddenly expected to contend. Football isn't played on paper, chemistry matters, coaching matters, health matters. There's no guarantee that a Hill-Herbert connection would live up to its theoretical potential. But that's what makes football so captivating. The collision between what we think will happen and what actually unfolds on the field. The difference between projection and reality. And if you're a Chargers fan, you can't help but wonder, what if the projection became reality? What if the fastest man in football started catching passes from that cannon-armed quarterback in powder blue? What then? What then?